Speaking of InfoWars, somebody sent me a segment where the guy who's trying to be like Alex Jones, I don't know who he is. I don't remember his name. He's the one who has like the Abe Lincoln beard. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Matt Walsh.
No, not Matt Walsh. Just the Abe Lincoln beard, not with the mustache. And he had on Gavin McInnes, who apparently is still around, doing his thing. I don't know. It's a new project that he's got. I can't even remember what the name of it is. Censored or something like that, of course. He's censored. We desperately need to, see images of him taking poops on stage or whatever it is that he wants to do. I mean, I have no problem with doing it on stage. I just, that guy did, maybe his name's Owen or something. He did a thing where he had his mask and he put in a CO2 reader to make the argument. And this is a big part of this. Make the argument that these masks are killing us because all the CO2. And now we know that surgeons wear masks for hours on end, that during these crises, the people are wearing masks all day. It's not enjoyable. Healthcare workers, they don't like doing it, but they're not getting sick from their masks. Here is a doctor. It's so ridiculous that we have to have doctors spending their time doing this. But here's a doctor, a guy named Pete DeBali. He's in Florida. He wants to demonstrate that 6 hours of continuous N95 wearing masks gives no change in the oxygen saturation or what is known as hypoxia in him anyways. And here he is using an actual medical device to do it. There it is. Now, I don't know how to read those things, but he's basically, I think that 99 is an oximeter. It's basically saying what the oxygen is in his system. He's not being denied oxygen, even though he's wearing that mask. Anybody who does woodworking knows this too, because you got to wear those masks when you don't, when you're sawing stuff. I mean, this
was a joke. We joked about this on this show. People got to take their masks off because it's making them stupid. And then a day later, it seemed like that was a literal belief widespread on the right wing.
It's unbelievable. And of course, now we're seeing all of these mask freakouts. Why are we seeing this? Well, because our leadership in this country, the president of the United States, the vice president of the United States, half of the media are basically promoting this idea that masks are for, girly men. There was actually a story in the Washington Post. They said like in the style section, how can we get men to, see wearing masks as being masculine? You contemplate in our society, like Jesse James, like all the outlaws wearing bandanas over their face, all the cowboys wearing those bandanas. The idea of construction workers and woodworkers wearing masks. The idea of every superhero all wearing masks. The idea that we have to promote the idea that wearing masks are macho so that we can convince these morons to do it. You got to give me a break. It's unbelievable. They resent the idea that human beings can take collective action, which is what this is, right? This is, you wear the mask is explicitly a collective action because you're doing it for other people. And they resent that idea because it undercuts their entire philosophy of the way that people work. Here is Mike Pence, who is trying to now navigate How is he going to start to adopt wearing masks after he's spent so much time poo-pooing it and not doing it? And listen to this word salad that comes out of Mike Pence.
Sound though, like you're saying, do as we say, not as we do. You're telling people to listen to local officials, but in Tulsa, you defied local health officials to have an event that, even though you say it didn't result in a spike, dozens of Secret Service agents, dozens of campaign staffers are now quarantined after positive tests. And then in Arizona, one of the hardest hit states, you packed a church with young people who weren't wearing masks. So how can you say that the campaign is not part of the problem that Dr. Fauci laid out?
Well, I want to remind you again that the freedom of speech and the right to peaceably assemble is enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. And even in a health crisis, the American people don't forfeit our constitutional rights. And working with state officials, as we did in Oklahoma and as we did in Arizona, we're creating settings where people can choose to participate in the political process. And we'll continue to do that. I think it's really important that we recognize how important freedom and personal responsibility are to this.
Effing believable to watch Mike Pence try and figure out what the hell he's supposed to say in this instance. The guy's saying, more than I do. So you've got a problem. And this is really important. The important thing is that we, Constitution, I said the Constitution, right? And he's just going to try and see how much distance can he get from the question so that people forget what the question was. The question is, how do you tell people to go and follow local health officials' advice when you specifically ignored it days ago? When you say there was no spike after the Tulsa rally, and of course, we don't have enough time to know whether there's been a general spike. All we know is that all the people who get tested within the administration, there was a spike there. But we're not going to know about what happened in Tulsa for another couple of weeks because they don't have asymptomatic testing that's available to all those people. Sorry. And he is just sputtering around. Continue. Go back a little bit and just watch this, where he gets through his rote, the Constitution says we can do this.
Yeah. Nobody asked if you violated the Constitution, Mike.
Well, just go backwards a little bit and then do it.
Continue to do that. I think it's really important that we recognize how important freedom and personal responsibility are to this entire equation, but allowing younger Americans to understand, particularly in the counties that are most impacted, the unique challenges that we're facing in their age group, we think is important. But look, it's so important that we recognize that as we issued guidance to reopen America now 2 months ago, and now as all 50 states are opening up our country again, people are going back to work. American everyday life is being restored kind of one step, one day at a time.
Really?
I think it's important that we remind ourselves this is not a choice between the health of the American people and a strong economy. There are profound health implications to the lockdowns through which we just passed.
Yeah,
I heard a statistic not long ago at a task force briefing that in one jurisdiction there had been a 50% increase in the number of people presenting at emergency rooms having attempted suicide. I mean, there are profound mental health issues. There are profound economic issues. People needing to be back to work, and so our objective here today is just to make sure the American people know. In 34 states, the cases are largely stable, and There's no combination of rising cases and rising positivity rates. That's a tribute to the American people. And in the 16 states we're focused on today, we simply want to equip particularly young people with the knowledge of the part that they can play in stemming the rising tide of new cases. Not because the coronavirus represents a significant threat to them. In most cases, it doesn't if you're a younger American, but because no younger American would ever want to spread the coronavirus to someone who would have a serious outcome. But I'm grateful for the time today.
Yeah, in other words, I managed to play out the clock on this, and so I'm going to have to leave now because if I get another question to that effect, I'm going to have a total breakdown because what I just said was complete mealy-mouthed garbage.
We want young people to know their role in this, which is why we had a mega rally at a church with TPUSA where no one wore masks, and we called it the Kung Flu.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah. We want to know. We want it. Look, it's important. This part's important. The importance of how important this is very important. And kids,
it's important to know what's important.
It's important to know what's important, and that in and of itself is important. Mm-hmm. And I love the whole fake laugh thing. I think is just like wonderful. It's like, well, the Constitution, it's important.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised he didn't pivot immediately to blaming China like they usually do.
Yeah, the Kung Flu is it's important. It's really important. I just, God. Here is Mike Pence going to a service in Dallas, Texas, where they're having massive outbreak. Where are the most dangerous places? Where do the clusters happen? Well, they maybe happen in a bar in Michigan, or maybe they happen in a church in Dallas, Texas. Now he's wearing a mask these days. And they're just belting out that, all of that, it's like just a mass spraying of that audience. And there's not many people in there who are wearing masks.
Well, God would never punish these people with the virus.
Right. Everybody.
It's not a particularly youthful choir either, I might add.
No.
Didn't the first outbreak happen, or like one of the first super spreaders was at a choir practice in Washington?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, choir practice, you're in a small room, I would imagine. You're in like a music room. And I think that adds to it. So, maybe they're playing the odds. They got God on their side.